Well, Hayde joins me now to talk a little bit more about gang violence in Cape Town. What a fascinating coverage of gang violence in Cape Town. But what we see playing out there pretty much resembles what you would see on the streets of Baltimore, somewhere in Chicago.
Correct, Vincent. That's because many of the conditions on the Cape Flats resemble those of many American cities. This idea of a deliberate campaign to pack poor people of color into these densely populated housing projects. And so that urban geography of apartheid still remains in South Africa today. If you're poor in South Africa, that country is still very segregated for you. And so you see a lot of the people on the Cape Flats have also the sense of dispossession and displacement because the problems have their roots, just like in America, have their roots in slavery. The people on the Cape Flats are descendants of Southeast Asian, of East African slaves. They're also the descendants of the native Bushmen and the Dutch settlers. And so there's been this, identity crisis over generations, and people also feel this sense of displacement, this sense of dispossession. And so when you see the Americans gang, they believe that wearing American branded clothing, wearing the American flag, gives them a sense of power. It gives them a sense of street prestige, even if it's these little toeholds of prestige on the streets. And so this matters to people in what is otherwise a very bleak landscape of life on the Cape Flats.
And you in your series, you really feature a lot of the violence and guns, and everybody seems to be having a gun. The question is, where do these guns come from?
Well, I think first of all, it's important to understand that what we're seeing and what we saw in this piece really is the street level operation of a much wider international criminal network. These gangs are often have very, very strong links with the Nigerian mafia, for instance, on the continent. They have links to the Chinese triads, the Sicilian mafia. And I've been a reporter covering this for many years in Cape Town. Any reporter there will tell you, our reporting shows that these gangs, in the hierarchy of these gangs, it goes up very high. And the guns you see in the hands of these gang members used to be in the hands of police. Late last year, the police minister, Fikile Mbalula, he admitted that the guns that these gangs have were sold to gang lords by police officers, what he calls weak police officers. 2,000 guns disappeared last year, and only a third were recovered.
And perhaps that's why, like one person in yesterday's segment said, we need the army on the streets of Cape Town. Now, the army on the streets of Cape Town, how do people respond to that?
Well, people say the government has admitted this is a war. The community members will tell you this is a war. Everybody seems to be in agreement that this is a war. So community members say, bring out the army if this is a war. And there have been these short bursts of military intervention, really just as a scare tactic, to scare these gangsters and just to mainly keep the peace. But they're not solving the long-term problem. Their job is not to police these areas. And the government has been very hesitant to bring out the army. It's one of the hallmarks of South Africa's democracy. You do not have the military on the streets. They should be in the barracks. So there are these counter-arguments and counter-arguments for whether the army should be there. A lot of people saying, this is still Africa, and you do not want the optics, those images of the military out on the streets. They should be in the barracks.
They belong in the barracks. I have to say, this has been a very courageous assignment that you've accomplished, and also very insightful. Thank you very much, Hayde, for doing this. Well, Africa 54's Hayde Adams FitzPatrick.